Welcome to week 3. We're already into February, and that last week that you just completed, that's really the rhythm of the semester. You have your chapter that you got to read, chapter or two. You have the quiz based on that chapter, an exercise. If you don't have an exercise, that's because you have an actual story to go out and write. So you're going to be going out and doing your reporting. But that's the flow of it. So you completed that week, and hopefully you feel comfortable now understanding what the rest of the semester is going to be like. With that said, let's get into this new week. I will do a little review from last week, but I want to mostly focus on what we're doing this week. So we're in week 3 here. And I'm going to start with this last point here. Continue to read news every day. Read some kind of a newspaper. It doesn't have to be a print one, a physical paper that you get to the house. It can be online. But read some of the bigger publications, the Hartford Courant, New York Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal. Read some of these more established papers. Because I want you to start seeing the lessons that we're learning being applied. I don't have a test on this yet, right, on the news that you're reading every day, but what I want you to do is start to make the connection. So for example, you just saw newsworthiness. We read about that in this chapter. Start to see what kind of stories are newsworthy, what kind of stories make the front page or that first page on a website. You learned about the lead, right? What goes in the focus, the first few paragraphs, the main point, the focus of the story. See how they present that in these stories. How do they get that focus? Where do they put it? Notice the difference between a headline and a lead. A headline being Super Bowl this weekend, right? Super Bowl this Sunday. Doesn't tell you which teams maybe, doesn't tell you anything else. Then you read the lead, which is that first sentence, and that's where it says the Kansas City Chiefs are playing the San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl. I don't even know what number we're in, 50-something, right? And it starts to give you more details. So you understand now the difference between a headline and a lead, and you can start to see how that's being applied. You can start to see the difference between hard news and soft news, feature stories. And this is something that tricked up some of you in the quiz, because I think you got too specific. So a hard news story, that's a fire, a plane crash, a murder, I don't know. I'm trying to think of some other good example of a hard news story. A robbery, a person receives an award. That could be soft news too. But someone receives some kind of a grant, whatever. Right? That's just hard news stories. That's just reporting facts, giving you the essential details of something that's in the moment. You had really one chance to report on it. Whereas soft news is more like the feature type. So actually, I'll give an example here. We'll sticking with our Super Bowl example. The hard news could actually be the game itself. So the game is played, and I'm recording this on Sunday morning, so I have no idea what happens, but the game is played, right? And you report on the score. Kansas City, who I think is going to win, Kansas City beat San Francisco. They do the score, who scored when, who was the MVP, what was the big play. That's the hard news story, because it was about the actual game itself. It was about that you had that one shot to cover the actual story, right? And I apologize if you're hearing my dogs barking in the background. The soft news is the feature story. So maybe that's leading up to the game, learning about a player. So maybe they do an in-depth feature on the quarterback, from Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, right? So they talk about his life and growing up and how he got to where he is. That's more the soft news. That's the feature. That's the human interest side of it, right? So think of hard news being more timely, being more straight to the facts. Soft news being more of the interest of it. Maybe another example of a soft news story is talking about some Kansas City or San Francisco fan that's waited their whole life for this, right? And they're waiting about them being a hardcore fan for the game and what they're doing for the game, right? That's more of a soft news story. So there is a difference, and the reason why we need to know that distinction is because there's a different style in writing them. Hard news, the lead's going to look a lot different, going to be right to the point. A feature story is going to get the focus, going to get the main point out, but it's going to be unraveled a little differently. It's going to might be even discovered a little. It's not going to get to the who, what, when, where, why, how right away. It's going to lead you into that. And we're going to write both of those stories in this class, and that's why it's good to start understanding the difference between the two, because we're going to do a hard story and a soft story, and you're starting to understand the styles. So back to my point here, start reading news, start to try to identify what's a hard story, what's a soft story, why, what are the differences now that I'm reading it? Do I see why one is one and why the other one is the other, written in another way? And just start to make those connections. What I'd also like you to do is on your exercise, review the feedback that I give you. This is going to come trickling in throughout the week. So if you remember from the first week, I have everything graded 1 week from the due date. So this was due, Sunday night, just before Monday. So I'll have it graded before the following Monday. However, I'm pretty good, and I get these done throughout the week. So you might see yours graded by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. So when you do see it graded, take a look at the feedback I give you. I try to give specific feedback to each one of you individually because you're all going to have different issues, right? So I've tried to give you specific feedback. I might also give general feedback the following week. I'll give general feedback from what I've seen, maybe for the whole class, especially if I see an issue that's going on with the entire course, with the entire class. But take a look at what I write to you. If you're confused by what I write to you or it doesn't really make sense, remember, I'm doing a lot of these. Sometimes I have to make quicker notes. I don't go all in depth, and maybe you need that. Maybe my quick note to you didn't make sense. You need me to go a little deeper. Message me, hey, Professor Chiara, you said this, but I'm still a little confused. I'm not sure, what you meant by that. And I'd be happy to then go into more depth with whatever it is your specific question is. I apologize because my dogs are driving me nuts right now, so I'm sure they're driving you nuts in the video. All right, let's go to this next one. So you've got chapters 4 and 5. You guys understand the rhythm now. 2 chapters to read, take your notes, be ready, because then when you take the quiz, you'll hopefully, it's technically open book, but you have a time limit to it. But you've already read it, you've taken notes, you'll be able to find that information quickly and apply it to the quiz. One of the big reasons I also do these quizzes, is these could be like notes for you. So basically the questions I'm asking, I think are crucial for you to know as a journalist, crucial for you to know as you start to do your writing assignments down the line in a couple of weeks when we start actually doing reporting. Some of those key facts, some of those key questions that I do are pieces of information I feel like you need to know to be a better writer, to be a good journalist. So take a look back. If you got something wrong, make sure you understand why. Check it up in the book, right? I do give you the answers, but go back and look at that section of the book. It's a good way to identify what your weak points are so you can strengthen them. So then when you start to go out on your own and have to be a reporter, you already have a good foundation. You have the key information. So almost think of them as notes. I know they're graded, and sometimes I give students, something to be nervous about. But what I care even more about is, okay, you got a few wrong. That's fine. Know why you got them wrong, because that's going to lead you to your writing assignments, which are worth a lot more points anyways. So these are kind of smaller scale assignments to get you ready for the big ones that will be worth the main chunk of this course. So you have a quiz, you have another exercise, which of course complete, and then I will give you feedback on after. And that is the main breakdown of this week. Moving into what you're going to be doing this week as far as these 2 chapters. This week now, you've got the basic foundation of what makes something newsworthy, how are stories somewhat structured, and you're going to learn more about this throughout this semester. In fact, let's see, do I have my syllabus out here? Yeah, so as you saw, you just started to learn about a basic news story. This week we're going to be learning about sources, online research, interviewing. And then you see after this, we're going to really break down on specific pieces of the news story, how to write the news story, and we're going to focus on different pieces of it. So for example, leads and nut graphs. That's how you open a story. We're going to spend a whole week just working on leads, nut graphs, and then the story organization. Where do you put that key information? Kind of like what you did with your exercise, but more in depth. Then we're going to learn about AP style. I won't get too much into this right now because there's going to be a whole week dedicated to it, but it's a certain style of the way you write things and the way you do, grammatical and stylistic techniques that are used in journalism. And then you start to see, we'll understand media issues, and then we go to storytelling and feature techniques. So this week, these are much more on hard news. Then we learn how you write more about features, soft news, storytelling for features and profiles. That's soft news, right? So what I'm trying to tell you here is this first week was you just understanding the basics of journalism and what do we consider journalism. And then we're going to start narrowing and getting better at each aspect of how to write a story. And before you can even start to write, if you're a journalist, you have to know how to get information to write your story, how to research, and that's what this week is focused on. So in the chapter, you're going to learn about sources. That's a big piece of it. Journalists need sources. We mostly think of human sources. If you follow journalism at all, or if you've been exposed to any kind of journalism classes, we think of human sources a lot, and that's a huge part of journalism. Interviews, that's a human source. We need to interview people, especially if they're part of the story, or if they have some kind of relation to the story, or you can know something that can help us complete our story. We're interviewing people. Another source, though, is just other information that's already out there, right? This could be information you find online. This can be records, public records, records from towns and states. It can be data. It could be surveys or the census data. These are all what we consider sources too. One is just human, and the other is written or recorded already. So you're going to learn the difference between sources. You're also going to learn in this chapter on the record, off the record. You hear that a lot in movies, right? This is on the record, this is off the record. Well, what does that exactly mean? And while there's importance to it. While it's not always legal, it's not like you can get sued necessarily for reporting something that's off the record. You can destroy your reputation as a journalist. So you do have to know what is on the record, what's off the record. When a source says that to me, what's on deep background, that's getting a little bit even more advanced, which you'll learn in this chapter. What does that mean? What's the difference between that and off the record? There's these little nuances that you're going to learn all about that's going to help you when you're interviewing someone, know what you should write and what you shouldn't write, what you should be able to report on and what you shouldn't be able to report on. I will take a step back. For this class, the kind of stories you're going out to report, I doubt that you're going to have a source that's going to be saying, no, this is off the record, this is deep background. That's for as you get a little bit more advanced, and if you're interviewing a public official or somebody who wants to stay anonymous, which we're going to learn about in this week. What's an anonymous source? But still, you should know the basics of that, because that is the fundamentals of what makes you an ethical journalist. You're also going to learn interviewing techniques. So in a couple weeks, you're going to actually have to go out and interview somebody for your stories. You're going to have to go out and interview somebody that you haven't met, probably most likely. And that can make you a little nervous. I understand that. When I first started, I was a little nervous doing that. But one thing that helps you is if you understand what makes for a good interview, what are good techniques. And so even if you're a good talker and you're naturally outgoing, doesn't always mean that you're a great interviewer. In fact, I found sometimes it can make you a worse interviewer, because you're so outgoing that you want to do all the talking. You don't ask the right questions. Sometimes I even find people that are a little bit more reserved are better interviewers because they're better listeners. So they'll ask one question and then they'll really listen and not want to keep talking. So what we're trying to do is, whether you're shy, whether you're outgoing, by learning good interviewing techniques, by learning what kinds of questions we should write, how you should be prepared before you go into an interview, how you should record the answers that they give you. All that is in this chapter. That's going to help you become a better interviewer. That's going to help you get better information. And oftentimes I have students that are really good writers, but I can tell they didn't do a great interview. They just didn't get enough information because they were just lacking. And if you miss that part, then even if you're a great writer, you just didn't have enough to work with to write the story. So this is a crucial, every week is crucial, I think, in this course. But this is a crucial week because if you don't get the right information to start with, you're just not going to be able to write a story. You just won't have enough. So this is going to help you become a good interviewer, be able to know what to ask, know what to record, and then have enough to start writing your stories. That's really what this week is about. It's about the preparation before actually sitting down and writing. All right, that's your outline for the week. So again, remember, you've got chapters 4 and 5 quizzes due by the end of the week, so before Monday. You have your new exercise. That is also due before the end of the week. Keep looking back. When you check back every once in a while, as soon as you see that I've given you feedback on your exercise, read that feedback, make sure you understand it, and apply it, because it's all going to be used in future lessons. So then you can start applying that. And of course, read news every day. If you do have specific questions, whether it's about your exercise or it's just about something else in the class, please send me a message. And other than that, I hope you have, I guess this is already in the past now, because again, I'm recording this Sunday morning, but I hope you had a great Super Bowl. Hope it was a great game. And hopefully I don't know if anyone has a dog in the fight for this one. I was a Rams fan, so last year that was my big year. But this year I can just sit back and enjoy the game because I don't have a dog in the fight. So I hope you have a great Super Bowl. And again, come to me with any questions. Some of you guys are one last thing, and then I'm going to end this. I knew there was something. I was stalling because I knew there was something else I needed to talk about. The discussions. Great job introducing yourself. And I saw some people have already commented on each other. Thank you for doing that. Again, it's not required. But yeah, leave a comment, reply back. It's nice for you guys to get to know each other who's in this class. So if you were a student who did that, and I saw a few of you did, I appreciate that. And it's not too late. You can always go back, read about your classmates, leave a comment, and hopefully that person will even write back to you, and you guys can learn who's in this class. All right, thank you, and I'll see you all next week.